I'm back with Peter Ash. His charity, Under the Same Sun, is working to stop the discrimination and persecution of people with albinism in Africa. Now, when you go to Tanzania, you are a Caucasian person with albinism, with presumably different physical features, even though people with albinism, they are also white. Yeah. How do people react to you? How do kids with albinism react to you, sort of knowing that you're coming from North America?
Actually, the vast majority of people with albinism, children and adults, don't at first blush realize I have albinism. They simply think I'm just a European. Mzungu is the Swahili word. I'm a European, and so I'm white. So they don't make the connection until I actually have to convince them sometimes. What I do is when I interview the mums who've lost children in these murders, I've interviewed several families now, they tell me the story, the grisly stories of these murders. And I say, you know, I have albinism, and I have this map that I pull out, and it has photographs of people with albinism from all around the world, from every culture, every race. And I explain that albinism has nothing to do with where you're from or what race you are. And then I take off my glasses, and I get them to look into my eyes.
Right.
And they can see the lack of pigmentation. And then I get one of my colleagues who
also your eyelashes are blonde,
right,
which is pretty rare.
And I get I take off, and I get one of my colleagues who's with me from Canada, who's Caucasian. And I get him to stand next to me, and we have T-shirts on, and he puts his arm up against mine. And he puts his hair against mine, and they look in my eyes, and then you can see the light bulb start to go on. But until I actually do that, most of them don't make the connection. And once they make the connection, it's a powerful teaching tool, because a lot of them really believe that albinism only occurs in Tanzania, or maybe in Africa.
Right.
They don't really believe it's this, and that really is important, because it demystifies just that little action. Powerfully demystifies albinism, because it's not this curse in the village or curse of the gods on our country. It's just a genetic condition, period, that exists across the world, and that alone goes a long way to changing attitudes.
But presumably your body parts are worth $75,000 as much as anybody else's.
Yes, they are.
Are you at fear for your life when you're there?
No, yes and no. Mostly not, because
I mean, do you take
I take security with me as a precaution. I have private security detail with me everywhere I travel in Tanzania, and particularly when I travel up north, I have security with me 24 hours a day. You know, I'm a Westerner in a country that has economic challenges, so people have any Westerner as a target in a country like that. And secondly, I'm making some statements that could make some people feel uncomfortable, and I have albinism. So as a precaution, you know, we've never had any incidents to date because I have a high profile there. As a precaution, yes, we do take security.
But activists who've worked with you or even working in Africa have been targeted, right?
Yeah, some have, yeah. One of the advantages I think we have is that rather than simply identifying the problem, unlike many activists, we're actually an on-the-ground charity. We have 13 full-time employees in Tanzania. We have an office. You know, we've invested $1 million so far in our programs there in direct support and help to people with albinism. So for us, it's clear to the government that we're trying to be part of the solution.
So what do you do with that money? Where does that money go?
Oh, a number of advocacy programs, education programs, educational materials. We go and visit families who've lost loved ones, and we provide support to them.
And you bring the news crews with you.
We bring the news crews with us. We also have now a scholarship fund. We're putting 150 people with albinism, children, through high school and university, because most people with albinism in Tanzania are very poor and uneducated. Right. And we're doing things like producing a documentary film. We've engaged a firm in Montreal to assist us in producing a 60-minute feature-length documentary in Kiswahili, which will be distributed free of charge across the country. So we're investing in changing the way people think and feel about people with albinism. Right. And so we're investing in elevating the status. It's not dissimilar to the challenge that the African-American population faced in the southern U.S. when people who have black skin color couldn't go on the same bus, or couldn't go to the same school. People with albinism face very similar levels of discrimination in Tanzania, and that's really what we're trying to target.
Right. Now, my understanding is that there have been some efforts, I guess, by the government to some people call them concentration camps or refugee camps, but basically take people with albinism and put them together in a protected area so they can't be attacked, so that these roving mobs can't go and hack them to pieces. Is that a good idea? Is that at least as a first step?
It's a good short-term solution in a crisis situation.
Yeah.
There's Matindo School near Mwanza. We're involved in supporting the school. They have 105 children with albinism in one school. It was a school built for 35 kids, blind children. And now we've got 140 kids in there, so there's a huge overcrowding problem. 140 kids, 3 kids to a bed. I've been there several times. We have other schools, Kabanga School, have 50 children with albinism. So yes, getting them out of the villages where they're at risk, putting them behind barbed wire fences with a guard 24 hours a day is a great short-term solution. But do you want to live, you're ripped away from your family, you're ripped away from your mom and dad, your community, You're put in some residential school miles away, behind a fence 24 hours a day. So is that a great way for a child to be raised?
Right.
Absolutely not. Is it a good short-term thing to do to save their lives? Yes. Our concern is that there's not a lot of long-term planning going on to say, okay, how are we going to deal with the systemic problem creating these killings? And our biggest answer to that is justice. There's no punishment. There's no deterrent factor. And so until people have a disincentive, this will carry on.
Now, you've given $1 million. You plan to continue giving over the, I mean, is there specific?
We're there for the long term.
Long term.
It's going to be a long-term investment, $500,000 to $1 million a year, whatever it takes. You know, we're going to keep investing. We're going to keep raising the profile. All that is necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing, a philosopher once said.
Right.
And I decided I could not be one of those people who did nothing. And so for me, when I heard about this story back in 2008, I just couldn't not get involved.
Right.
God had blessed me, and I had some time and a resource, and I thought, I got to get involved and help.
Well, we just have a couple seconds left, but I bet a number of our viewers are curious what they could do if they don't have $1 million. What would you suggest to the average Canadian?
Well, I would suggest go to our website, which you mentioned earlier, underthesamesun.com. On there, you can certainly donate to our work to help educate people with albinism. We're always taking donations. You can write to your member of parliament, to politicians in Canada, appealing that they would appeal to the Prime Minister of Tanzania to end these atrocities and bring justice to the families. Bring political pressure to your MP to write to the Prime Minister of Canada and then to the Prime Minister of Tanzania. And those are some things that everybody can do.
Great. Well, good luck with your work.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. You can find out more about Peter Ashe's organization, Under the Same Sun, by visiting the website he just mentioned, underthesamesun.com. Coming up next, is Nigeria, one of the world's top oil producers, potentially facing all-out civil war because of the negative impact of oil exploration? We'll find out next.